Week 14. Not as much chaos this week, but a lot of standout performances and a playoff shakeup.
Hold it right there, ma'am. I'll be taking that. Get out!
Everyone's gonna find a reason to bitch and moan about whatever they can find from this game, but it was a heavyweight battle between division rivals that went down to the wire. Detroit escaped with a game-winning field goal and swept the Packers for the second time in 3 years. They don't have the North yet, but this should do for now. The Jets were jetting like they've jetted before. Aaron Rodgers plays his best game in almost 3 years, and in a turn of events, the defense let them down. Miami did not look good in that first half, but tied the game up and immediately scored in overtime. I hate that I even have to admit I was let down by the Jets this year. Atlanta, you're cooked. Kirk Cousins completely shit the bed in his return to US Bank Stadium. Sam Darnold just went scorched earth and is a very sneaky MVP candidate. Michael Penix, stretch and toss in the bullpen. This game was the embodiment of ugly. I mean, my god. Just a putrid display of some of the worst football I've seen in a long time. Saints, this win was meaningless, especially since you lost Derek Carr. The stats weren't fantastic, but Bryce Young did have the chance for his legacy game. The Panthers gave everything they had against the Eagles, but just fell short in the end. Philly, you managed to escape, and have been rewarded for it, I suppose. Oh yeah, there was no way Mike Tomlin was going to get swept by Cleveland in a season. The Steelers looked a little iffy offensively, possibly having to do with missing George Pickens, but they still got by. Sorry Cleveland, no happy endings for you. This game had me concerned for maybe 3 minutes. Bucks got off to a hot start, started sleeping a little in the second and third quarter, and would be deadlocked with the Raiders before putting the game and Aiden O'Connell away. Alright, nice little throwback to the 30s. Tennessee just outsucked the Jags. I don't even know. This has to be the best toilet bowl game in the worst way. Jacksonville wins with nothing to lose, but Titans, this was your alley-oop. For Will Levis and the guys, it's May over. Well damn, the Seahawks swept the Cardinals, one step closer to closing out the division, and what a monster performance by Zach Charbonnet. Arizona, all I gotta ask is, what the fuck happened to you? Holy shit, what a game. First of all, Josh Allen for 6 touchdowns? I don't even care that the Bills lost this game, give that man the MVP. But the Rams, man, they definitely put the league on notice. So, the interim injection didn't work. Instead, Chicago was more checked out than before, while Brock Purdy and the other half of the Avengers that weren't snapped away looked like the reigning NFC champion we expected to see. Unfortunately for them, this won't last. At this point, what can you even say? There's a reason the Chiefs are 18-2 in their last 20 games. It was an ugly win, but I mean the Chargers gave them everything they had. And like the other AFC West games in Arrowhead, the Black Magic at the end doinks the kick off the upright and through to win the division for the 9th straight year. The Simpson cast mid-off was a solid competitive affair. Dallas did a great job containing Cincy for the most part, but muffing the block punt just undercuts what they've done well, especially since it put the nail in the coffin and allowed Jamar Chase to close out his phenomenal night. Alright, so our predictions went 8-5 last week. That late window slide is what killed me. But I'll admit I was a little ambitious on the Bears and the Panthers picks. Now let's see what the playoff picture looks like going into week 15. Relatively the same, other than the Buccaneers overtaking the Falcons for the NFC South lead. Now let's go over clinching scenarios. Philly already clinched the playoff berth last week, but with a win over the Steelers and a Washington loss to New Orleans, the Eagles would clinch the NFC East, meaning for the 21st straight year, this division will not have a repeat champion. Then looking at the Vikings, pretty easy. All they have to do is beat the Bears on Monday Night Football, or have Seattle or the Rams lose, and they'll clinch a playoff spot. One of these things has to be likely, right? Then for Green Bay, theirs is a little bit of a long shot to clinch this week, but again, they can next week. But they need to beat Seattle, and they need Atlanta to lose to the Raiders, and they need the Rams and 49ers to tie. Yeah, Green Bay, you can get it next week. Then hopping over to the AFC side, the Steelers could clinch a playoff berth if they beat the Eagles, or if that doesn't happen, if the Colts lose to Denver and Miami loses to Houston. Speaking of Houston, if they beat Miami and the Colts lose, then they'll clinch the AFC South with 3 weeks left to play. God, that division's so bad. And the teams we have facing elimination this week, they're basically all out with the loss. But for Carolina, even if they win their game, which coincidentally is against Dallas, they'd only still be alive for contention if Tampa Bay and Atlanta lose. Both don't seem very likely. Well, maybe. But Dallas-Carolina is essentially an elimination game. Cincinnati's got Tennessee this week, so hopefully they don't blow that one. Now, you know what's at stake? Let's see how Week 15 plays out. And for the first time since Week 8, everybody's playing. All the teams have already gone on their bye, so we'll have 16 games every week for the remainder of the regular season.
Let's go!
To start off Week 15 on Thursday Night Football, we have an NFC West rivalry with the Rams taking on the 49ers. Oh man, talk about a massive game for the division. But San Fran is coming in after beating down the hapless Bears, but the Rams come in with a little bit of momentum after beating the Bills in a high-scoring game. LA's defense is still a concern, but as we've seen this season, as long as Stafford has Cooper, Puka, and Kyren Williams, that offense can explode, especially considering how Stafford did against the 49ers last time without both of his receivers. San Fran is going to be a tough out, but if they lose this game, then they won't be able to defend their division title. And it'll put the Rams in the best possible position to take that top spot from Seattle. Even though it's crazy to think that McVay could sweep Shanahan this season, I think I'm going to go with the Rams winning this one in a very close game as they continue their playoff push. And San Fran, just pack it up, buddy. Then on Sunday, we got the Cowboys taking on the Panthers. Dallas, I really did not want to do this. I mean, if you didn't muff that blocked punt, we wouldn't even be in the situation right now. Well, now you found yourself in an elimination game against the Panthers. Yeah, could you imagine being eliminated from contention by the Panthers of all teams? I will say Bryce Young has looked a lot better over this last month or so since he's come back, and nearly had a chance to beat the Eagles, but thanks to good old Xavier Legette, the Panthers were unable to pull off one of the biggest upsets in the league this season. Now, their defense is also still a little worrisome, but they contained the Eagles pretty well last week, only holding them to 22 points and held them scoreless in the fourth quarter. So while the defense isn't great, it's still improving. While for Dallas, same could be said for their defense, as they were able to contain the high-scoring Bengals for the most part. But it's also going to be tough since they're down DeMarvion and Overshown after a nasty knee injury. But all in all, I don't think the Cowboys are as bad as they were a month ago. But we have seen Cooper Rush be limited as a quarterback, and that made a huge difference on the last drive with a chance to win the game. This game could be close and competitive. I guess I'll go with the Panthers to win this one. They are favored in the game for the first time in 2 years, so give me Carolina winning this one at home and eliminate the Cowboys from further contention. Then we're going to have the Chiefs taking on the Browns. All I'm going to say is this game is going to be very close, but somehow the Chiefs end up winning this one. Who knows? Maybe some of Jameis's magic can offset the Kansas City Devil magic. We'll see. Then we're going to have the Dolphins taking on the Texans. The Dolphins fighting to stay alive for a playoff spot. Houston, their playoff hopes aren't in imminent danger, but they just have not looked good over these last few weeks. So you'd think coming off a bye, they'll be fresh, get other players healthy, and look better. Miami, though, they're a frisky team. After an overtime comeback against the Jets, they're still very much in the mix for a playoff berth, but they still have their work cut out for them, especially when we're still talking about the Dolphins not being able to beat a good team. I expect the Texans to come out of their bye and put the league on notice before this next 11-day stretch and clinch the AFC South. Then we're going to have the Jets taking on the Jaguars. Oh god, not again. You're probably wondering about the Jags logo. They're going to be rocking their throwback uniforms in this game, the only redeeming quality of this matchup. I mean, honestly, both of these teams were pretty poverty over the last decade or so, and I think it sucks even more now that we had expectations for them going into this season. For the Jags, Trevor Lawrence is shut down for the season, so you gotta keep riding with Maxonville. But you did win in Tennessee last week, so that's something, I guess? And then you got the Jets, just a walking collapse. Over the last few games they've played, they've blown late leads to Indianapolis, Miami, New England, and Seattle. This team just can't close out games anymore, and now all of a sudden, having Aaron Rodgers in a 2-minute drill doesn't seem so scary. Not only that, their defense has regressed a lot. I genuinely believe now that everyone owes Zach Wilson and Robert Saleh an apology. The fact that they had this team at 7 wins consistently is a miracle. Now, onto the matchup. Both teams have already been eliminated from playoff contention. Now it's just a matter of trying to get that higher draft pick. I think the reason the Jets had played hard in that Miami game last week was because they were still technically alive, and winning would have given them a slightly better chance the rest of the way. But now that the season is officially over, I can see a lot of these players not even trying. Plus, the game is in Jacksonville, and they're wearing those throwbacks. Undefeated in them, by the way. Give me Jacksonville winning this one in a tight affair. Then we got the Saints taking on Washington. The Saints aren't going to have Derek Carr. Not saying he's great, but this team is better with him. And they'll be taking on a Washington team coming off of a bye. and need to find momentum going into the playoffs? Yeah, complete mismatch. Give me Washington winning this one. Then we're gonna have the Ravens taking on the Giants. Yeah, that's basically it. Then we're gonna have the Bengals taking on the Titans. Wait, hold on, do you hear that? God damn it. The toilet bowl trifecta. Sure, why not? Could you imagine that this was an AFC divisional round game from a couple years ago? Yeah, life comes at you fast. But I'm not going to take a lot of time with this one. The Titans are actually just bad, and I didn't think they could get worse, but then I saw them put up 6 points against Jacksonville and lose by allowing 10. Yeah, it has not been fun to watch. While the Bengals, Joe Burrow's putting up MVP numbers, Jamar Chase could be the Triple Crown winner this year, and Trey Hendrickson's in the running for DPOY. Yet their record says 5-8, they're 1-3 in division, and about 3 games out of the playoffs, with 4 weeks left. It's not that they're a bad team, they just have bad luck. But plain and simple, quick and easy, give me the Bengals obliterating the Titans. Then to open up our late window, we got the Patriots taking on the Cardinals. The Patriots, I mean, we know what they are at this point, but over the last few weeks, they've given the teams they played against a fit, and coming off a bye, I expect them to do more of the same against the Cardinals, who've been on a little bit of a losing streak lately. The playoffs still aren't that far out of reach, Arizona. Just lock in and take care of business against a Patriots team that is much worse than you are, and get back on track to close out the season. Give me Arizona winning this one at home. Then up next, we got the Battle of the Horses. We've got the Colts taking on the Broncos. Let's ride! So this game is actually very integral to the AFC playoff race. Denver sits at the 7th seed right now, with quite a bit of cushion ahead of the next team behind them. That team would happen to be the Colts. Yes, the Colts still need a lot of things to go their way, but simply put, if they beat the Broncos, that gives them a much better chance to make the playoffs. But that's just a scenario. Let me get to my prediction. Both teams are coming off a bye, so I would expect to see both teams fly around, possibly even be engaged in a shootout. We have seen both teams do that this season, but I think Denver's defense is going to be the biggest X factor in this game, along with the volatile nature of Anthony Richardson, and I think Denver makes a statement in this game, at home, to solidify their playoff spot, and essentially give the Colts zero chance. Then we're going to have what could be a Super Bowl preview with the Bills taking on the Lions. Oh man, both teams coming off a phenomenal game last week. Lions on the winning side, Bills on the losing side. But it's not like the Bills were outright bad in that game. Josh Allen accounted for 6 touchdowns. 6! Their defense was honestly the biggest issue, since the Rams were able to run all over them and happened to find receivers in wide open spaces. Unfortunately for the Bills, the Lions play a similar style as the Rams do, and I said it last week. At home, the Lions are a different animal, and I got booed. But I was right. This is going to be a battle between the highest scoring offenses in the league. So here are my thoughts. I don't think this game is going to be very high scoring. I think both defenses will lock in and not give up so much offense like they did in their respective previous games. But the Bills were on a winning streak and were due for a loss. The Lions are still currently on the longest winning streak in the NFL. I mean, this is a tough one. I think the Lions are just on a mission for that number 1 seed, and they don't care who lines up in front of them, they will not be denied. Give me the Fighting Dan Campbells winning this one in a very close, low-scoring game. Then we're going to have the Buccaneers taking on the Chargers. Well, we're not quite Fraud Bowl territory, but there are definitely questions about both teams' contention status. The Chargers are coming in, losing 2 of their last 3 games, and have looked questionable against quality competition. Then you got Tampa Bay, who started the season looking really good, had a lot of injuries, Baker Mayfield turning over the ball too much, going on a little bit of a losing streak, but now they're coming off of 2 straight wins and are back in the mix for the NFC South title. But that thing about teams from the East Coast traveling to the West Coast is real. Plus with Baker Mayfield turning the ball over the way he has, and against this stingy Chargers defense, who has still given up the least amount of points this season, I'm going to take the Chargers winning this one, and I'm not sure if we do see both these teams in January. Then we're going to have a second candidate for Game of the Week. We're going to have the Steelers taking on the Eagles, playing for Pennsylvania. A 21-5 combined record between these teams. This is going to be fun. Now, the only thing is, the Steelers are possibly going to be without George Pickens again, and for the foreseeable future. But we've seen other Pittsburgh receivers step up, so as long as Russ is cooking, the Steelers offensively really have nothing to worry about. Philly's defense is tough, but they can be got. Now, looking at Pittsburgh's defense, they have a chance to make some noise in this game, especially with the sudden descent of Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, and the fact that the former is prone to losing the ball when the game plan solely relies on him throwing. If the Steelers' rush defense, that ranks 4th in the league, can keep Saquon Barkley contained, I think Pittsburgh might have a chance. Now it just comes down to them not looking ahead to the Ravens on a short week. And I'm not sure if home field advantage works here, but regardless if it does, I think the Eagles grew too complacent in their game last week against the Panthers that they did almost let it get away. They're another team that's also fighting for that 1 seed in the NFC. So I'm sure they're taking this time to shore up the finer details and get back on track, starting with winning the Clash of the Keystone State in front of the Philadelphia faithful. Then on Sunday Night Football, this NFC matchup's given us its fair share of classics. We've got the Packers taking on the Seahawks. Now, as it stands, if the playoffs were to start today, then this would be the 3 versus 6 matchup in the wild card. But these teams are trying to put their best football out there at this time of the season. Green Bay, for the most part, had been really good all season. Explosive offensively, the young defense has improved every week. But outside of Houston, they hadn't really been able to beat a contender this year, having lost all 4 of their games to the Eagles, Vikings, and Lions twice, all NFC contenders. I'm not sure if Seattle fits in that category. Yes, they are leading the NFC West. They've had a rocky road to get here, plus implosions from San Fran and Arizona. Geno Smith's got full control of this offense and can attack from any way. Great receiving core, solid running back duo, when both healthy, and a defense that's looked much better along this win streak. Man, this one's gonna be fun. But I think in this one, it's gonna come down to coaching, so I'll take Matt LaFleur and the Packers winning this one to essentially lock up a playoff spot. Then to wrap up Week 15 on Monday Night Football, we got the Bears taking on the Vikings. Well, the last time both these teams played in Chicago, it took overtime for the Vikings to escape this one. But this time around, yeah, it's not gonna be close. Vikings will win this one while rocking those nice whiteout uniforms. And that's gonna do it for Week 15. Wait, what? What do you mean there's another game? Oh, fuck. Then as part of our Monday night double shitheader, we've got the Falcons taking on the Raiders. Now this game would have been a lot more fun if Desmond Ridder was starting. Aiden O'Connell's just going to get thrown in there just to get taken out again. But, I mean, the Raiders are garbage. I wish we could have forgotten about this game. But then you have the Falcons, who are on a 4-game losing streak. And Kirk Cousins, I mean, you were my comeback player of the year, but now you might just be washed. If this game is going to be good for anything, it'll be for getting Michael Penix Jr. valuable game time. But the Raiders haven't won since week 4, and I'm kind of in the mood for chaos. Atlanta got my hopes up, disappointed me, and now I'm pissed off. Give me the Raiders winning this one in an upset on Monday Night Football. And now that's going to do it for my Week 15 predictions. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to tune in next week where I'll have my Week 15 recap and Week 16 predictions. Y'all stay safe and keep it trill.